Hello and welcome back to Race Recap. My name is Jackson. This past weekend we had the Truck Series and the Cup Series racing on what could be one of the best tracks NASCAR has ever done, the Bristol Dirt Track. And yes, to clarify, that's just Bristol, the old short track, but with dirt all over it. So, we're going to start out today with a little bit of, I wouldn't call it breaking news, but a little bit of news. First out of the Truck Series, if you know the new team G2G Racing with Tim Vian's the owner, they usually do the 46 and the 47. Well, they're not going to be full time with the 47 anymore. It'll be part time. And actually, at the dirt race this weekend, they didn't even have the 46 entered, so zero trucks for them. Not sure if what's going on there, but we'll find out in the near future. They were supposed to have Andrew Gordon in the 46, but he switched over to Cicerelli, Ray Cicerelli's truck in the 49, making his first appearance this year. Now, also, real quick, in the Xfinity Series, you remember the Hall of Famer Jesse Little, well, not Jesse Iwuji, that is, teaming up with an NFL Hall of Famer. That's pretty cool right there for the 34 car, so the Chevrolet it is. But actually, they're not going full time either, and neither is Iwuji. He's switching out with Kyle Weatherman in and out, interchangeable drivers that could be. So is the 48 crew, Jay Buford, and this weekend they have Kaz Gralla in there. So I'll keep you updated on both of those stories. Now, before we get into the main events, there were some qualifying heats that we usually see at dirt tracks, and we actually saw them in the Clash at the Coliseum for the Cup Series earlier this year. Both series, Trucks and Cup, were each 15 laps and each had 4 heat races. Now, for the Cup Series, all 36 drivers made the field, but for the Truck Series, there were 38 trucks going for 36 spots. So for a few people, it's a little more nerve-wracking than others. Now, the Truck Series, first two heat races, both went green to checkered. The first went to the 20 Young's Motorsports truck of Austin Dillon. He was one of 4 Cup drivers in the field. Joey Logano was in the 54, and the 17 was Harrison Burton, both of them racing for David Gill in Motorsports and Racing. And then the 7 Spire Motorsports truck was Chase Elliott this weekend. And then the second heat race went to the 66 ThorSport truck of Ty Majeski. The third heat race had an incident. It was a caution flag when the 1 of Haley Deegan spun out, but the caution laps did not count, so they just restarted on that same lap. And the checkers went to her teammate at DGR Racing. It was the 54 Joey Logano. And then the fourth heat race went green to checker, which went to the 18 of Chandler Smith. And now it's not set up on heat race finishes. It kind of is. So if the point system is you get a point for each time you pass a truck. So if you started last and you went all the way up to the front and you passed 8 trucks, you'd get 8 extra points. And then your finishing position is like a stage finish. 10 points for first, second place gets 9, so on and so on. And that's how they would start the field. And if there was a tie, it'd be based off of owner points. Now, the 2 trucks that didn't make the field were Stuart Friesen's wife, Jessica Friesen, in the 62. And then Norm Benning was trying to make his first start of the year. First time we've seen Norm back on the track. Unfortunately, he did not make the race in the 6 truck either. So then the Cup heats, 4 heat races, again, 15 laps each. First heat race was pretty eventful, actually, in 15 laps, I guess. The first caution was brought out when the 12 of Ryan Blaney spun out and just kind of lost it in turns 2 and 3. And then there was no caution on the last lap of the race when the 1 of Ross Chastain, who was pushing for a few extra spots, spun out and lost it, and then that did cost him a good starting spot. And the checkers went to the 8 of Tyler Reddick. The second heat race had an incident as well. It was when the 99 of Daniel Suarez, Trackhouse teammates with Ross Chastain, he lost it again on his own and spun it around. And again, caution laps don't count, so they just started back on that same lap. But it didn't matter because the 20 of Christopher Bell and his Toyota won heat race number 2. Heat race 3 went green to checkered, which went to the 31 of Justin Haley. Another unusual heat winner in heat race number 4, it was the 42 Petty GMS Chevrolet of Ty Dillon. Now, the main event, Truck Series, 150 laps. May not seem like a bunch for Bristol, but on a short track, that's a lot of laps. Or on a dirt track, it's a lot of laps. Now, the first caution was brought out pretty early on when the 49 of Andrew Gordon spun out. I mentioned he was supposed to be in the 46, but switched over to the 49 for Ray Cicerelli. First time we've seen Cicerelli's truck on the track. Unfortunately, spun out early on. And then the second caution was the Stage 1 winner, which went to the 99 of Ben Rhodes. The third caution was on the 44 of Chris Wright, spun out and made some contact with the outside wall driver's side. And then the 9 that looked like a Blaine Perkins also spun out down the track. The fourth caution was the Stage 2 winner of Ben Rhodes, swept both stages in the 99. The fifth caution was a very interesting accident. It was a red flag, actually. It looked like a normal dirt track move was taking place. The 25 of Matt DiBenedetto was putting the slide job on Austin Wayne South. If you don't know what that means, he just went underneath him and slid back up in front of him so he couldn't get back by on the outside. Of course, there was a little contact, back bumper to front bumper between the two after he slid up. Now, that's pretty usual for a dirt race, and even a short track it is as well. But then something happened when they got back around to the back stretch. They were going real slow, and it looked like they were almost stuck together. That's because they were stuck together. I've never seen it happen, and the announcers said they've never seen this before either. So they had to stop the race, red flag it, to get the 25 and the 22 unhooked. Their bumper, the rear bumper of Matt Benedetto, and the front bumper of Austin Wayne Self got stuck together, which calls for an over 10-minute red flag to get them separated. And then once they got back going from that strange accident, the sixth caution was brought out when the 43 Rayon Brothers Motorsports truck of Keith McGee spun out and backed it into the outside wall. The seventh caution was when the 18 of Chandler Smith spun around after some contact with the 98 of Christian Eckes. The eighth caution was on the 51 of Buddy Coford. He's a road course expert, actually, I guess you could say that. The rookie, making his first start in the truck series for KBM Motorsports. He spun out after trying to do the slide job on Ben Rhodes, just lost it a little on the inside. And then the 66 Thor Sport of Ty Majeski spun out trying to avoid, and the 19 of Derek Krause slid into both of these trucks trying to avoid and get back up the track, but he ran into both of them. And then lastly, on the last lap, after the leaders crossed the checkered flag, there was two separate incidents. It looked like the 33 of Mike Mahler, who was having a good run inside the top 20, got turned exiting turn 4, and he slid across the line, and after the checkered, made some pretty good contact with the inside wall. And then back behind this, before the checkered flag, exiting turn number 4, the 02 of Kaz Gralla and the 9 of Blaine Perkins both went spinning. Perkins spun back up the track and made some contact with the 49 of Andrew Gordon, and then Gralla was hit by the 30 of Tate Fogelman. And the checkers went to the 99 of Ben Rhodes. He swept both stages and the race. And it was a crazy finish, actually. There was a last lap restart. Well, not last lap. 5 laps to go. And Rhodes just drove the top like he'd been doing all race and got back to the front because they had a little miscue on pit road earlier, which set them far back in the field. The miscue was he meant to pit, but he forgot where his pit box was, and he went down the wrong pit road. So they had to stay out with his teammate, Ty Majeski, early on. But didn't matter because he still won the race. So the top 10 here were Ben Rhodes, Carson Hocevar, John Hunter Nemechek, Parker Kligerman, Christian Eckes, Joy Logano, Chase Elliott, Grant Enfinger, Matt Crafton, and Zane Smith ran out of top 10. DNFs in this race? No, I'm serious about this one. 0 DNFs in the truck race at Bristol. I don't know if I've ever seen that before, a 0 DNF race. Of course, we've seen a couple in the Clash and an All-Star race, but that's used to because there aren't as many cars or trucks in the field, so pretty unusual. The next night on Saturday or Sunday night, Easter Sunday, it was the Cup Series running 250 laps at the Bristol Dirt Track. The first caution was another strange event. It was because there was too much dirt on too many drivers' grills, so NASCAR threw the yellow flag so all cars could come down pit road and clean the dirt off the grill if they wished to. We saw this a little bit last year when it was dusty and dirty on the track and the grills got covered up very fast. So they were able to clean that off and fix the dirt a little bit. So we did not really see this throughout the whole race. Then when they got back going, the second caution was for the leader, the 14 of Chase Briscoe. Had a right rear tire go down, actually. Now, you don't usually see tire go down that much on dirt. But he spun out and lost it on his own after the tire went down. Then the third caution was on the last lap of Stage 1. The 77 of Justin Allgaier. Glad to see him back in the Cup Series for a race in the Spire Motorsports Chevrolet. He actually got up hard into the outside wall, and that did end his day. And that took him to the end of Stage 1, which went to Kyle Larson. Fourth caution was on the 48 of Alex Bowman spun. The fifth caution was a pretty big accident. The 7 of Corey LaJoy had a little bit of contact, and he spun off turn number 4. And then he got into the 7 of Kevin Harvick and the 16 of Noah Gragson in the Colleague Motorsports Chevrolet. He got up on the side of Kevin Harvick. His right sides were on the roof of Harvick, actually, and he spun off Harvick and made some contact with the inside wall. Surprisingly, Gregson was able to continue. Harvick was unable to, though, because his tire was just bent way out of straight. And then also in that accident, the 48 Alex Bowman, who brought out the fourth caution, spun out trying to avoid. And then the sixth caution was for the 6 of Brad Keselowski, who spun. The 7th caution was for debris on track. The 8th caution was when a lot of drivers made contact. It was hard to see through the dust. We do know, though, that the 7 of Corey LaJoy got up into the outside wall, and so did the 21 of Harrison Burton, who he hit also. And then LaJoy spun it out in turns 3 and 4. And then the 9th caution was the Stage 2 winner of Chase Briscoe in the 14. Good comeback for him. And this was a red flag because everyone kind of knew this would happen, but there was a lot of rain in the area, so there was a pretty lengthy rain delay. And we were wondering if the race would be called. There was a lot of drama through there, and if the race were called, I'd go and explain it all. But it's very confusing. They froze the field, and they weren't going to reset the storing lines until they got back under green. But if we weren't going to go back under green, who would win the race? Very hard to explain. But we were able to get back green, so that wasn't an issue. And then the 10th caution was brought out after that pretty lengthy rain delay, when the 51 of Cody Ware spun out after some pretty significant contact with the 9 of Chase Elliott. And let's just say Ware was not too happy with Elliott under the caution. He came back and hit him a couple times, actually, in the rear bumper. And then also the 47 Ricky Stenhouse Jr. spun under that caution as well. Then the 11th caution was on the 43 of Eric Jones, spun and backed it into the outside wall. The 12th caution was for rookie, the 38 of Todd Gillen, who spun out. The 13th caution was for the 47 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who got up into the outside wall pretty hard. The 4th caution was another red flag. It was brought out on that restart when the 3 of Austin Dillon, his engine shut off actually, and he was just like a rock dropping through the field. Everyone was trying to avoid. Unfortunately, the 15 of J.J. Ailey, who was having a pretty solid run up in the top 20 for a good part of the night, he got up into the back of the 3 of Austin Dillon, taking them both out of the race. And the 45 of Kurt Busch got turned trying to avoid and made some contact with the outside wall, driver's side. And this was a red flag because more rain came through the area. Luckily, this was just a little light sprinkle, so they were able to clean it up pretty quickly. And when they got back going, it was a chaotic finish. There was no caution when on the last lap, the last corner, Tyler Reddick, who was leading the race at the end of the last rain delay, he had a pretty steady lead, but road course expert Chase Briscoe cut the gap down, and on the last lap made the dive bomb, tried to cross him over. They both made contact, wasn't really even close for Briscoe, and they both spun down the track, and Kyle Busch came through to get the win at the last second. Didn't lead another lap. Actually, did lead one lap of the race under caution. But the checkers went to the 18 of Kyle Busch, and there was no arguing or anything after the race between Reddick and Briscoe. Reddick said, I let him get too close, and I would have done the same thing, firing his shoes, and Briscoe came and apologized for that as well. Now, the top 10 here were Kyle Busch, Tyler Reddick, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, Alex Bowman, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, Michael McDowell, and Ty Dillon. Great finish for both of them, rounding out top 10. DNFs in this race, J.J. Ailey was out for the accident, along with Austin Dillon and Kurt Busch. Ross Chastain had engine difficulties. Kevin Harvick was out for the accident. Denny Hamlin had engine problems in the 11. Not been a great season other than that win at Richmond for Hamlin. And then Justin Allgaier was out with that early accident. And I think the commentaries box had a good time as well after the old gang was brought back together. Darrell Waltrip was back in the booth for this race with Larry McReynolds, who was live at the track with Mike Joy and, of course, Clint Boyer. So that was a lot of fun. Well, that's all for race recap. Come join us next weekend when we have the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series racing on the high banks of Talladega Superspeedway. And we will see America's crew chief, Larry McReynolds that is, climb back onto the pit box after a over 20-year retirement for the number 3 RCR of Jeffrey Earnhardt in the Xfinity Series.